Hi, everybody. Coach Allison back, and welcome to week 4 of Defy Aging. So, this week I think will be really fun. Of course, they all are, right? But it's just a little bit different. So, it'll be a little welcomed variety, I think, this week. So, we're going to have 5 stations, but at each station is a superset. So, it's 2 exercises. So, while there's only 5 stations, it's actually going to be 10 exercises this week. So, 10 is actually kind of a lot. We haven't had 10 for a very long time. So the way this will work is you're going to only rotate around the turf one time. While you're at each station, you're going to stay there for 4 minutes. So within that 4 minutes, you're going to go back and forth between those 2 exercises within the superset. You're going to go back and forth between those as many rounds as you can for within those 4 minutes. So might be 2 rounds, 2.5, maybe 3. Make sure you do take a little break between each superset. So the superset means you're doing exercise 1 and then exercise 2 right away, back to back, no rest. Exercise 1, boom, exercise 2. After that second exercise, though, then you do take a little bit of a rest, 20, 30, 40 seconds for a little rest. Then you go back to exercise 1 again. So depending on what exercises are made up of the superset, I said that weirdly. Some of them will require a little more rest than others because some are going to be more tiring, more aerobic, whatever. So each station will be a little different. You might need a little more rest for some, a little less rest for others. That's why I said you might get through 2 sets, you might get 2.5, you might get 3 within that 4 minutes. Okay, long explanation there, but I hope that made sense. After the 4 minutes is up, then the beep will go off, whatever, on the interval timer. You'll have a 1-minute break to grab some water, take a longer rest, rotate to your next station, get maybe the weights that you're going to need that are appropriate for you for that station. And boom, we start another 4 minutes and you're at that new station for 4 minutes. And that's how we're going to do these supersets. So I think this will be really fun. Of course, if you have a lot of people in your session, you will have to double up at some stations, but that should be totally fine because you're kind of just working in your own little space at that station. So should be fine. And yeah, let's go through some demonstrations because we have a lot to demonstrate this week. Okay, so the first superset is actually kind of interesting, and it's our first one. So, but the 2 exercises are really just the right and the left side. So the right side is exercise 1, and the left side is exercise 2. So it's kind of a bad example for our first one because it's really just right and left sides. But anyway, it's a half kneel band wood chop. Yeah, so lots of names. So we need the band tied up somewhere low. We want the anchor point to be low, as opposed to sometimes when we do banded things, it's tied up parallel to like our chest height. We want it low this time. You're going to kneel on the floor with the inside leg, so the leg that is inside to the rack. Okay? And ideally, I would have this even anchored up even lower, but with my racks at this gym, the lowest thing I could hook it on was still about a foot off the floor. But as you can see, it's kind of at about my hand height here. I would like it anchored up a little lower. So if you have the ability to hook it up almost all the way to the floor, do that. So a wood chop movement is like going diagonally from low to high. So like in this, like if you were chopping, it's weird because typically you're doing a wood chop in upward motion, but if you're chopping wood, you're typically chopping in a downward motion, but I digress. I didn't name it. So what we're going to do is start kind of down low. We do a rotational, ooh, this band is too heavy for me. I have to move in. We do a rotational movement up to the opposite corner and then control it back down to the starting corner. It's important that you let your head and like your gaze go with your hands because that helps you get a more full rotation. And this is a core, kind of a rotational core type of exercise. So slow and controlled up. So, my head went with my hands. I'm not continuing to look forward like this. And then my head continues to like look towards my hands as I go down. Slow and controlled at an upward diagonal movement. Okay, if we're staying off the floor, no kneeling, we stagger the stance like this and do the same thing. Everything's the same. The only difference is we have a staggered stance instead of a kneeling stance. So that would be exercise 1, and then we would do the designated reps. I did forget to say in the intro, all the rep counts are designated for each exercise. They do vary. So pay attention to the board and then also the station signs at each station will have the reps as well. But anyway, do your reps on one side, turn around, do the reps on the other side, And those are your 2 exercises for station 1. Okay, station 2, so superset 2 is the first exercise is a dumbbell Romanian deadlift. So we do these quite often. I'd say more typically we do it with a kettlebell. We're going to be doing dumbbells this week for the variety. So we have a dumbbell in each hand, of course, and our typical deadlift is soft bend in the knees. Let those hips drift backwards because it's a hinging movement. So you want to think of a hinge at your hip joints, okay? And we hinge at those hips. Let those dumbbells kind of drift right down I don't want to say the front of the legs, so I don't want you to think you have to keep them like super strict right in front because that causes you to like round the shoulders forward. So I say, this is just my own verbiage, I say the corners of the shins. So there aren't really corners of the leg, but so if this is the exact front of your shin, I say like the corner is kind of out here. So let the dumbbells kind of drift down maybe the corner of the shin. Okay, your coaches might have a different way of explaining it. That's the way I like to explain it. Keep your shoulders kind of down and back like this. See how my shoulders are still down and back? Want to avoid them rounding forward like this. That's what causes the back to round, because we do want that back to stay nice and flat, slow and steady. You don't have to get super low. Don't go lower than mid shin. So I'm going to stop about here. That's my lowest. I'm not going to go any farther down like this. We don't want to do that. Okay. I think the reps, like I said, it doesn't matter. The reps are going to be designated. The reps for that are 12. You do your 12 of those, we go right into a glute bridge, the second exercise for the superset. Glute drive, glute bridge, same thing. We lie down, feet are flat on the floor, palms are up. That's just a little bit of shoulder safety for you. And we know this one. We lift those hips, squeezing the hamstrings and the glutes, and come down. This is for 15 reps. A little pause at the top and no pause at the bottom. Try to push through your whole foot on the floor. So try not to do this and like want to use just the heels, lifting your toes up. Try to push the whole foot into the floor. For anybody staying off of the floor, I would typically substitute in a deadlift for that, but we just did deadlifts already. So I'm going to actually substitute in a sumo squat. So for anyone staying off the floor, swap it out with a sumo squat, just because that does target kind of more of the rear of the legs, the body, compared to a regular squat. So wide stance, toes angled just a little bit outward. You are going to feel a little stretch in here too, and we make sure those knees track out over the direction of the toes to make sure the knees don't kind of come in like this. You will have a little bit of forward lean. It should just be like a natural amount of forward lean. But that's your alternative if anyone is staying off the floor. So that is superset 2. Okay, we are on to superset 3. The first exercise is push-ups again. I know we just did them last week. We're going to hit them again, okay? I promise we won't do them every week. This week, however, it is only 8. Last week it was 15, so so much better than 15. For anyone that wasn't with us last week or didn't watch the video or maybe is brand new to us this week, push-ups, really quick reminder. You can definitely do toes. That's super advanced. So I am going to show you knees. Be sure if you're doing knees that we don't have the butt way up and back like this. You are sinking the hips level like a plank. Elbows track at a little bit of a backward angle. We don't want to make sure the elbows aren't flaring out like this. And it's very important that your hips and your torso are going down to the floor with your head and chest. So notice how my hips and my stomach are going down to the floor as well, as opposed to just my head like this. So all those things, keep those in mind. You can do them on the floor, on your toes. I really encourage knee push-ups versus toe push-ups because we want range of motion. If you're doing a toe push-up like this, but you're only getting down maybe this much, love the enthusiasm. However, you're really not getting any benefit out of that. If you're not getting at least halfway or lower, you want to switch to maybe a regression down. So that's why it's better to do knees, but get low like this than it is to do toes, but only bend your elbows an inch. So just keep that in mind. So there's knees, there's an incline. So you could use something like this, like a bench, and do an incline. And you can even do, of course, a wall version like this. Those are all great options. So whatever works for where you are at. 8 push-ups. I don't know why I just made 3 with my fingers when I said 8. The second exercise is a squat, a medicine ball squat toss. So this one's going to get some legs, some shoulders, and some cardio. This one I believe is for 12. Got one of these squishy, soft slam balls. We're going to keep it at the chest height. Go into a normal squat. So hips back, make sure we're not just thinking like this. This isn't a squat, this is just randomly bending your knees. So a squat is hips back, knees stay relatively over the feet. They can come forward just a little bit, and heels stay on the floor. So if your heels are coming off the floor, something has to be fixed there. Make sure the ball doesn't fall down here when you're squatting. Keep the upper body up, chest up, ball at the chest. And then when you come up, you toss the ball straight up, and then you catch it. Right as you catch it, you go into the next squat. Okay, so we're trying to make it nice and fluid. It might take a few reps of practice. We're trying not to catch it, stop, and then go down. Is it okay if you do that? Yes. You're certainly not going to get hurt or anything, but it kind of breaks up the flow. So we want to keep that movement going. We want to keep the contraction in the legs. We want to keep the heart rate up, so we want it to be nice and smooth and fluid. So that's the second exercise in this superset. Okay, next superset, we're going to have the first exercise, the tank pull. Okay, so we got our TRX hooked up on the tank, okay, like this. And when you do a tank pull, it's pretty straightforward. We're pulling it backwards. But a little bit of, a couple things to keep in mind, like any exercise, right? You kind of want that hinge body position, kind of like the deadlift earlier. So we do kind of want to hinge a little bit at the hips like this. Okay, and then I'll show you a little closer what I'm doing with my upper body. I want to make sure the shoulders are staying down and back, okay, as you're pulling down and back like this. We don't want to let the back kind of round like this and pull. And I forget the wording I used in the past, but keep your shoulder blades kind of tucked in and back. So your arms are forward, you are pulling, but you're keeping these shoulder blades kind of tucked in, and again, not letting them kind of protrude and stick out like that. So keep everything locked in really tight, and then you just kind of dig those feet in and pull. So it's not fast. Sometimes when we do the push, we go for speed and we're pushing really fast. This isn't like that. This is a slow, controlled pull. Put the resistance on the tank nice and firm, nice and tough. And the annoying part though is when you get to the end, you have to unhook that TRX from the hook and then walk it to the other side and rehook it on the other side. Unless your club has a TRX, 2 of them, and has one on each side. That's kind of nice. I only have one here, so I have to keep switching sides. Okay, the second exercise, I'm going to pause this for one moment. And the second exercise for this superset is a farmer's carry. So we're going to have a kettlebell in each hand, okay? And it's very similar with what's happening in the upper body. So I still want to take those shoulder blades, kind of lock them down and back, chest out, shoulders down. So I'm not allowing any shrugging or rounding like this, okay? But then of course we just go for a nice little walk. So just like this, slow and controlled. We're trying to control these kettlebells, so we don't want them kind of flopping all over. I like to pretend they are 2 full buckets of water, and you're trying not to let any of the water splash out. That helps to kind of give you a visual, is to kind of keep them nice and controlled. Yeah, now at this station, if there are multiple people, you can just switch off. One person can do the tank while the other person is doing the carry. That's a good way to switch off with the tank. I might have to wait a little bit, might not time out perfectly exactly well, but that's okay because you need some rests in there anyways. So that's a good way to work with multiple people at this station. All right, our 5th and final superset station. The first one's core. So it's going to be a starfish. We haven't done this for a while, but you're going to lie on your back. Okay, you have your legs are kind of a little bit apart, and your arms are apart as well. You can rest your head down. It's a start at least. And we bring one arm to the opposite leg as slow down as you can reach. It might be knee, shin, ankle, foot, and then bring everything back and rest. And then the opposing side. So you keep alternating sides like so. But do lift I'm lifting my head, my shoulder, and my shoulder blade off the floor every time you do a new rep. But between each rep, let your head rest down or your neck's going to get pretty tired. I believe this was 10 each side. I actually don't remember what I had for reps. Oh, 12 total. I was way off. So it'll be 6 each side, 12 total, however you'd like to count that. So for anyone staying off of the floor for these, if you're unable to get to the floor, it's going to be a little different, but it actually looks pretty similar. Same idea for the starting position. We're going to bring the hand or the wrist to the opposite knee. Now this one will involve some balance, whereas the one on the floor, of course, didn't. Okay, but bring that knee as high as you can. The higher you're able to lift the knee, the more you're going to engage those ab muscles a little more because you're having to fight against gravity to lift this knee. And when you lift the knee, you are kind of using ab muscles to do so, along with leg and hip, of course. But I'm not gonna advise you to try to reach the elbow to the knee. When you do that, it can kind of force some like really poor form, poor posture, forcing this kind of rounded back position. I'm not gonna advise that we do that. So I'm gonna say hand, wrist, maybe forearm to the knee, but not the elbow. 12 total of those as well. The second exercise is a prone rear delt raise, I think is what it's called. This one takes very, very, very light weights. I'm going to use 3s, might even recommend 2s. We're working the rear delt muscles. It's a very weak area for everybody. If you were on the floor doing your starfish, all you have to do is flip over onto your stomach now. Okay? Excuse me. Pardon me. Arms are straight out to the sides with the weights. Keep your chest on the floor. You can obviously don't have to rest your head on the floor though. And we have a very slight bend in the elbow. So subtle that I don't know if you'll even be able to see that my elbows are slightly bent, but make sure the elbow is not locked in straight. That's very important with this one. And we lift and lower. It's very small. You're not lifting very high, maybe 2 to 3 inches, maybe 3 to 4 inches. You can rest the hands completely down on the floor between each rep. Could you see? Yeah, I think you could see my arms there. It's very challenging. You'll be surprised how hard this is. You're not thrusting your body up. Now, anyone staying off the floor, you're going to do a seated reverse fly. We've done these before. I'm going to use this weird little short bench because it's just right here. It's the closest. But you would use a normal size bench. So you'll be sitting normally. I'm really low. Have a normal size bench, so you're sitting at a normal height. But it's the one we've done recently, actually, where you're bent all the way forward and a controlled reverse fly like this. It's still pretty light weights. You can use a little heavier than the people on the floor. So I might grab 5s or 8s here instead of 2s or 3s. But it's slow and controlled. We're not thrusting our body up like this. So slow and controlled. But that'll be your alternative for anyone who is unable to get to the floor, is not doing our floor exercises. So that is our final superset, station 5. Okay, that was a lot of stations, a lot of exercises, 10 things total. We do still have a team builder. So this is going to be an oldie but a goodie. It's an I go, you go jumping jack. So we'll need some partners for this. If there's an uneven number of people in your session, your coach can either jump in and be someone's partner, or you can have a group of 3, and that works fine as well. But anyway, you're going to be facing your partner, decide who's going to go first. Your coach is going to time this for 1 minute, and you mirror one another, essentially. While one person is doing their jumping jack, the other person gets to rest, and you're going to add a rep, so you're kind of not mirroring each other. You're going to add a rep each time. So I would do 1. You, my partner, would do 2. When it comes back to me, I'm going to do 3. Now you're going to do 4. I'm going to do 5, you're going to do 6. I'm going to do that for the duration of the minute, see how high up you can get with reps. And of course, a step jack is just fine for an alternative for anyone that is not doing our impact exercises. So you want to take this nice full step, do as big of a step as you can, and as big arm movement as you can as well. So you're getting as much body movement and as much cardio out of it as possible. So that is our team builder. 1 minute, maybe your coach will do 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. I'm not sure, but we'll see how high up you can get with that count for jumping jacks. All right, and that is week 4. Hope everybody enjoys these superset stations, a little bit different, something kind of new. Anyways, we'll see you back in week 5.